Hi, Mike. What are your customers asking you guys to innovate in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, sticking with the theme, hybrid is top of mind. And I think just to kind of drive home the point, people say work from home, work in the office, or hybrid. Well, hybrid is absolutely every variation between those two extremes of work from home and you're in the office. I mean, it could be someone in the car, it could be a third of the workforce on site. So you're trying to deal with that fluidity. And the point I think Dan and Wasim and Corey all made is, start with thinking about the quality of the experience for the audience. How can you create a high level of engagement for someone who may be sitting in that live audience? Can they participate in the Q&A, the polling? Can they vote their sentiments? Do they feel like they're getting the same experience as some of the online people that are participating? And then, from our perspective, that may sound pretty easy. I mean, back in the day, you'd have devices where you could vote. So, that type of technology has been around for a while, but the real trick to it is having the right amount of engagement for wherever that person is residing or watching, and also not compromising the other aspects of online presentations that you may have really grown accustomed to having. For instance, tracking, monitoring, analytics, quality of service monitoring, security, authentication, not having to say it's either this or that. It's kind of this, we're going to create the optimal experience that gives both the audience and the producers, or the producers and the presenters, everything they want from this experience. I would say the other element of hybrid that's changing immensely and very quickly in our area of the industry is the acquisition of these eCDN companies. You had Peer5 acquired by Microsoft. They're embedding the distribution technology in Teams. This is an area of innovation where you'll be able to aggregate some really critical quality of service metrics, some real-time monitoring that's kind of holistic across eCDNs and CDNs. You'll be able to do some really interesting things with silent testing, very interesting things with failover. That might be about as glamorous as, getting your chimney swept or something, but for day-to-day successfully delivering content to tens of thousands of people, it's mission critical. And it's an area where under the umbrella of hybrid, we're spending a lot of time and really investing in our partnerships with companies like Microsoft.
Yeah, on the eCDN side, it used to be a pretty easy sell for us. We would just keep it at its most basic value, which is when you have a lot of people on site, you want to be able to distribute effectively to them. And then we all went remote. So my first project coming into LinkedIn, not even knowing what an eCDN was, turns out. So I guess my interview process didn't catch that, but it was to onboard an eCDN and use it. And then we've been using different variations here out. But the question does come up with our eCDN: do we need it? Turns out it has lots of other valuable features, like you talked about, analytics and failover and other features that we actually do need. And I don't know that that's. I think some people automatically said, well, I don't need an eCDN anymore because we went hybrid. But yeah, there's still a place for an eCDN. I don't know that for us, we need quite as much. Like, we're not relying as much on the on-site campus features, but yeah, definitely still want to look at what an eCDN is. So, that something that I didn't know what it was, and use it, or at least talk about it. And it's something you have to get out in front of, because your IT folks, you don't want your IT folks knocking on the door after onboarding a platform that doesn't have an eCDN feature or some solution like that.
Yeah, I've heard a couple different people say, I don't need an eCDN anymore. And I'm like, well, eventually people are going to start coming back in the office. And when they are in the office, not only are they doing, webcasts and webinars, but they're also doing video conferencing. So there's a tremendous amount of increased video on the network. And you really need to get ahead of that to make sure that your events don't fail. We want to go back to the early 2000s when you have a big webcast and it went down because you decided to decommission your eCDN.
Bye.